ladies.
So, Shoshi, we'll go with you first, and you just tell everybody about yourself.
Okay. My name is Shoshana. Um, I live in Uganda. I'm married to an amazing Ugandan Jewish man. We have our son. He's the first and probably only Ugandan Jew from Texas. Um, uh, so I am a lifestyle columnist and grant writer. I write for the Uganda Observer newspaper and for the Gadi language blog. I'm also co-founder with my husband of the Tikva Foundation Uganda. It is a charity that supports disabled children through social businesses, social enterprise with women. So we empower both women and disabled children.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's wonderful. And Raven, do you want to go next?
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Raven Schwam Curtis. I use they and she pronouns, and I'm a recent grad of Northwestern University. I just finished my master's degree there like 2-3 weeks ago. So newly minted, out in the world person, not affiliated with school. And then outside of that, I'm a full-time content creator and keynote speaker. So I talk a lot about what we're discussing here today, being Black and Jewish, diversity in the Jewish community, and the various kinds of experiences that we have in Jewish spaces and otherwise.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us today. And Chaya? Kyla?
Hi, so my name is Chaylev. I am a almost 50-year-old Jewish woman. I live in Israel. I've lived here almost 7 years. I am a cancer thriver survivor and dance teacher, bringing a lot of just good vibes and good energy into spaces. I work with women of all backgrounds and cultures as I work at the YMCA in Jerusalem, Muslim women, Arab women. When I say Arab women, Arab Christians, Arab Muslims, Arab non-whatever, Jews, and just trying to bring not peace, but just some I guess peace. I guess I don't want to say peace, but bringing some respect. I don't want to say peace because we already know we.
I'm not trying to bring peace.
But just trying to bring some like.
Trying to bring peace.
Trying to bring some just bring some respect and to bring some energy, because at the end of the day, what I really see is that it's not just that we're all different and that's beautiful. It's that we're different and that we're not respecting who each individual is. And so for me, when I can come into a dance space and a space and, bring some dance and bring women together, that's us celebrating our humanity and our differences and putting aside and being respectful that we do have something in common, that we're more alike than we're not. So that's what I do, and I'm so happy. Raven, I'm following her. Janae, I know you. Shoshi, Dee, I know you guys privately, but it's also nice to meet new people, and so thank you for having me, Janae, on your podcast.
Yay, I'm glad you're here. Dee, you want to go next?
Yeah. So hi, I'm Dee Sinai, and it's so good to be a part of this. And it's Jenna or Janae?
Janae.
Oh, okay, Janae. So thanks for having me on with these beautiful women. I am a community organizer, founder of Mosaic Visions, which is an organization that I started at the beginning of the pandemic. I work in the space of diversity and inclusion, social justice, social action between Jewish communities and beyond the Jewish community to strengthen the bonds and allyships between our people and other impacted communities. And I'm going to echo what Haya was saying in terms of making sure that, when we are in a space with communities of color, that we as Jewish women of color leaders or men, we are still having a seat at the table, and that we are also equally respected and recognized, that we are a part of a Jewish community that is mostly also looked at as just only being white passing or white presenting, and that is not true. So that's my goal of making sure that we continue in those aspects of tikkun olam and repairing the world, but repairing our community first.
I think that's wonderful. And I'm Janae. So I run Gaudy Language. It's a blog. It's also a podcast. And I like to have interesting conversations with amazing people like you. And I just want to share knowledge and information with the masses. So thank you guys again for being here. And first, I want to talk about our experiences in the greater Jewish community. And feel free to jump in. I'm not going to call on each person, so just feel free to jump in if you have a point. And I could also start. So like for me, I converted. So I converted when I finished the conversion process when I was about 26. So I had been searching for a little bit, trying to find like my religious place. And I learned about Judaism. And so I went to synagogue, and it's actually an elderly couple. They helped me through the service, and I was like, I want to go back here. And then everybody was so welcoming that I started taking classes. And then, I converted through the Reform channel. So they have a program for conversion. And then I finished up my conversion and actually just made the deadline for birthright. And so when I was 26, I went to Israel, and that was an amazing experience. And so that's kind of my journey. And it hasn't always been easy, and not everybody has been welcoming to me. I've gotten the, do you work here? Or like, how long have you worked here? type thing. And I'm like, I don't work here actually. But, it's been a journey, so.
Well, like, do you work here? At least is a question that assumes that you're supposed to be there. So that's
As a worker.
Some of these experiences, though.
Don't get me started. I want to keep this as messy.
Too late. Too late.
I don't want to keep this.
I'm going there.
No, Shoshi, because you messy. I before Shoshi gets messy, let me go and be clear. Listen, I had also a conversion, and it's really, really interesting because in so many ways I didn't know what Jewish was or what this feeling was, but I knew I wasn't Christian. My mother was Jehovah's Witness, but I wasn't ever baptized. Absolutely, positively nothing. And I don't know, when I did my conversion, I've done two. I did one in the States. I made Aliyah, and I did a halakhic giur in Israel. So technically I've done two. But the thing about, like for me, in America, it's just like so different. It's like Janae and Shoshi and I know, because we've been to many events where people go, oh my God, it's so cute. Like, yeah, I want to star David. Like, I don't know what that is. Or sometimes I'll tell people my name is Haya. They're like, oh, do you know what that means? Now see, you about to make me do some stuff, because I didn't come here to be messy. I came to be a nice lady. Or you see me like, you see me praying, and then you come in like, oh my God, that's so cute. The prayers. So did you work for someone Jewish? Like, it's everything. And for me, it's not cute, because because the Jewish people are, or someone will come to me to say, well, what's your story? The Jewish people have a story. We are a people with stories. So it's so annoying to me, but especially, I don't get that in Israel. Now, would never say, in Israel, literally, I was just at a Brit Milah. Not one person came up to me and asked. I said the prayers, say with the thing. It was just like a Jewish event. Like, it's the assumption that everyone there in that space is a Jew. And wow, I have so much to say about it, but I'm not going to take up all the space like I normally do. But I'm just saying, like, it's, who are we? Like, this is the question I'm always asking. We are, I'm in Israel and people are like, oh, Israelis are European colonizers. And first of all, that's ignorance, right? They don't understand, right? But at the end of the day, we are Eurocentric because we were validated by the Europeanness of who we are. And why, I don't understand, because the Jewish people have been so nomads. We even if you're reading Torah, you says it, we started small, we were just a few, and then we were just traveling from place to place. So now when you come to me and you're like, oh, are you a Jew? Okay, so I did a giur, which I'm proud of, or conversion. But now you want to tell me that only Jews that went to Morocco are Jews, but there's no Jews in the West, there's no Jews over here, there's only Jews in Poland. And this is the part that bothers me, because we are so unique in so many ways this way. So I don't know. This is a hard one for me, guys. And especially I have zero tolerance, more or less, for my American people, because it comes with oh, you can't possibly be like an American asked me on the bus in Israel, after hearing me speak Hebrew, you speak Hebrew? I said, yes. And she's like, how? And I said, well, first of all, that's a dumbass question, right? Because I live in Israel. So that's a dumbass question, asking me how.
No person who lives in Israel speaks Hebrew.
It's a chutzpah. It's but in her mind, she just can't. And actually, a lady told me the other day, but I'm American. I said, she's like, you're American. You can be Jewish. And I said, oh, funny, you're American too. And she's just looking at me, and it's just and this is really what annoys me, because it's you not being able to decipher the history, when the first Jews that came to America were Sephardim. So it's Jerry Seinfeld, boy, when it's Mizrahi, Hetzi, half Mizrahi, all these things. And so what do we want to be? Who are we? And so this is, for me, the hard, the tougher part, even though, I don't pay so much attention. But in the US, I'm on alert. In Israel, I'm chilling. In the US, I'm and that's not a way to be. It's not a good way to be, because it's unnecessary, right? So that's my long spiel, and I don't know. All of this to say, I don't know. Shoshi, Janae, even Ed and D, we've talked about it. And I mean, Raven, I know you talk about it also on your platform, so maybe let somebody else talk. I don't know.
Sure, I can jump in here. I think one thing that will become clearer and clearer as we have this conversation today is that Black Jewishness is not a monolith. We all arrive to our Black and Jewish identities in so many different ways. And that's all the more reason that we should all raise our voices and be heard, because you can't just hear from one Black and Jewish person and think that you know all of our stories, because you don't. Yeah. My story is, I'm a patrilineal Jew. So my mom is Black American, my dad is Ashkenazi, and I actually wasn't raised at all connected to the Jewish community, because I was raised in a single parent household with my mom. So culturally, until I was 18, I really only had strong grounding in Black Southern culture specifically, because most of my family, my mom's side is in Texas, actually. And, it wasn't until I went to college that I even had the opportunity to find a Jewish community, because that just wasn't something I had access to growing up. And so I got very involved with Hillel. That was my first touchstone for my Jewish identity. They're very present across college and university campuses. And I mean, that's part of their purpose and their mission, is to help people arrive to their Jewishness and explore their Jewishness. I did a bunch of Jewish learning fellowships. I ended up going on Birthright, which was a very simultaneously affirming and complex experience. And in a number of different ways, like geopolitically, things that I was negotiating like back home and also in that space. And then also, some of the anti-Blackness that I experienced, unfortunately, in my birthright group, which is interesting because, I think people can tell that I'm Black when they see the hair for sure, but I also can be red in the world is very ethnically ambiguous, especially during the winter when I have like my palest shade going on. So that's also interesting to talk about too, like colorism and how we as Black and Jewish women and femme presenting folks like have different experiences with the community, perhaps based on our complexion. Because I don't know, I've had anti-Black experiences, but oftentimes it's been when I'm with folks who are more optically read as Black than I am, right, in Jewish spaces. And I talk about this on my platform, but I have one experience when I was in high school. I was at a bat mitzvah, and my mom is optically read as Black in the world, but people read her as Black in ways that they sometimes don't read me, right? And we show up to this bat mitzvah, and this Ashkenazi guy who presents as white comes up to us and asks, oh, are you two performing? And he said, you too, but he was looking at her as he said it. And I think I was like 15 or 16 at the time, so I didn't fully register what was going on, but after the fact, it kind of clicked, and I was like, why did he assume we were there to perform? Like, we're dressed up like everyone else, we're here to celebrate, whatever. And that's when she kind of explained to me that he had made that assumption because we were literally the only Black people there, right? So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's hard to gauge, because of the privilege that I have with my complexion, to what extent anti-Black racism that I experience in the space is directed at me or the people that I'm in proximity with. But I've definitely been privy to it. I can say that for sure, 100%. At the same time, I don't think it's all negative. I obviously, like, we should feel empowered to speak on the anti-Black experiences that we have in Ashkenazi spaces, because that is very, very, very real, and those experiences need to be heard. And at the same time, I'm sure we can all agree, like, we've had overwhelmingly positive experiences as well. It's not all doom and gloom. Like, I've been able to find Jewish community that has been deeply affirming and safe and wonderful as I've delved more into my Jewish identity over the last 6 years. So yeah, I don't know. It's like anything. You just have to find your people. And unfortunately, not all folks in our community are open and receptive to us.
All right, let me jump in. So I live in Uganda, in the heart of the Jewish community here in Uganda. There's about 5,000 Jews. It's really a wonderful experience. I love it so much. I am so living around people who are Black and Jewish, and my identity is totally normalized. And I never had that before, and it feels great. Just like, I don't have to explain myself about so many things. I'm welcome in every synagogue. Nobody asks me why I'm there. My family is really integrated into the community. It's just an amazing experience. Like today, the rabbi came over this morning to help us with the shechita for our chicken. So we're kosher. And so we have to have our meat in in a certain way. And so the chickens, the rabbi trained in Israel to be able to make our chickens kosher. So we have that going on, very fresh. It's delicious. Yeah, it's like there's these tiny pockets of the world where where our identity is normalized. Like, there's a Black synagogue there was one in Harlem that I went to as a teenager. I heard there's one in the Bronx. There's also one in Chicago that I heard of. And so there's these tiny pockets around the world where being Black and being Jewish, you know, also the Ethiopian Jewish community, there's one in South Africa, another one in Nigeria. So it's not like we're forever in the narrow overlap of the Venn diagram. Okay, it's not always like that. And you know, it's so refreshing when it's not. It's so refreshing. You know, so you guys have shared experiences about when you know, your Judaism has been, you know, questioned in Jewish spaces. Well, I wanted to share a situation where my Blackness was questioned because of my Judaism.
Okay, so yeah, let's segue into like our experiences like being Black or brown and Jewish. So.
Yes. Okay. So so I was interested in pledging a Black sorority. I had taken a look at a few of them, not all of them, but you know, one was a little too uppity for me, a little too preppy. But then I found one that felt like a good fit, where I could vibe with the other women. But then, you know, and during the you know, pledge process, at the beginning of the pledge process, they started to introduce Christian language and, you know, prayer. And so I said, hey, you know, I'm Jewish. And then they tried to suss me out and see if I was Black enough. And then even one lady was trying to tell me that oh, this or that is white. I said, no, Jewish.
Wait, what
Okay.
was
Oh gosh. So she had a Jewish, you know, light-skinned Jewish stepfather, and she had associated. My kid's trying to make a jailbreak. I'm not letting him in. Sorry, guys. um, my, sorry. So, anyways, it was that he would she was trying to say that this or that aspect of my life, or I was talking about like my family traditions, or you know, like the holidays. Like I love you. I'm a passionate religious faithful Jew. I'm traditional. I care about the tradition. I want to grow in the tradition and even, you know, B'ezras Hashem, become even more religious. And you know, and she was just against it, as if aspiring for more Judaism means letting Blackness go. And I obviously completely reject that. I'm Blacker than all of you, probably. But yeah, and then the next day I got a call saying, you're not in the you're no longer a pledge. So
because
fine, okay.
there is an assumption that if you're Black, you're Christian. And so I've seen that not in my like just day-to-day experience. That really is horrible that they kick you out for
not just the default religious grouping for Blacks being Christianity, but if you're Black and Muslim, then you're even Blacker than the other Blacks.
Yeah. that is an assumption too.
You
I mean,
think
I've had
black
like
people
Oh, that's
you
that's
people
real.
black.
That's the real one.
I've had one instance where I was part of a Black organization at work. And so it was like kind of an extracurricular thing. And we would meet up and they would always like have a like Christian prayer and like kind of like speak like, you know, so I've had those situations. But ordinarily people are pretty okay with me, like, you know, being like, I'm Jewish or like, I'm who I am and, you know, not stepping on that. But I notice online, people are pretty rude.
Online
So,
people are donkeys.
yeah, they really just don't
total
care. So like when
red
all that stuff,
donkeys.
remember when there were missiles, what was this, like a year or two ago?
Don't
Like
get me
just
started.
being
Don't get
fired
me
on
started.
Israel. And I said, you know, that's really a shame because I followed this one Black
Don't get me
influencer
started.
because I agreed with most of what he said and like, you know, his social justice stance and I was really into it. And, you know, I always looked at his stuff. And then so when this happened in Israel, he said, you know, these people who have committed a genocide on the Palestinians, like they're being punished or whatever. Like he had this whole thing about, you know, and like of course everybody in the comments are like, you're right, like the Jews are doing this and that. And I was like, you know, I think that you guys should read more into the history of Israel and try to learn more before saying these
People
things.
have
And
no
of course they said I was a clown
idea.
and whatever else, so I stopped following him. But I've noticed that like, you know, sometimes when I'm following Black pages that I agree with, a lot of the stances I agree with, then when it comes time to debate something about Judaism, I don't agree. It's really
Well, first
awkward.
of all, can I just jump in here real quick? First of all, we also, if we're going to talk about, you know, the greater Jewish community, we need to talk about the greater Black community because Black people are like, wait, what? Like, you know, it's a lot of it's first of all, it's a lot of people. Literally, first of all, the internet is not a real place. The internet is not, let me say it one more time. The internet is not a real place. It is a place where we go on and everybody has a 5-minute opinion and we are trying to have full conversations in 15 seconds. I'm sorry, the internet is not a real place. We should all go outside and touch grass at one point in our lives, okay? In the end of the day, I've had to fight the Black community on the shade room or something. Like I'll be like, oh yeah, Tel Aviv. Like, you live in Tel Aviv. You live in America. You live in America. Don't come for me, please. This is not, this is the problem. The problem is not just that about where you live. You're talking about the politics of the place that I live. In what world do you take that against the person for the politics of the place that you live? Where? The internet, okay? First of all. And on top of that, like, there is a place, I see it as an Israeli going travel. When people say, where are you from? I say, I'm from Uganda. I say Jamaica. I say whatever. Israel. Why? And so you get in the Black America, we are colorists. We don't understand that around the world, people deal with culture. So that means my friend who's Caucasian from the real Caucasus Mountain, who's Kafkazi, doesn't understand why white Americans call themselves Caucasian. He doesn't absolutely understand it. He's like, they're not Caucasian. I'm Kafkazi, I'm Caucasian. Okay, then you go to the Russian is like this. Then you go to the Ukrainian people just are who they are. And I think when you get into the US, you know, the Black people are like, oh, we're going to side with the Palestinians because they see the same story. It is not the same story. It is not anything like it. You don't understand it. And why? And what you're dealing today, you can say, I can tell you right now, people are like, Israel, yes, of course it's racist. Of course there's bigotry. Of course there's prejudice. Of course there's bias.
Yeah, but Israel's not the country with the different unarmed Black men being killed every month.
Knock on my Arab neighbor's door and be like, pop, pop, pop to the door like they doing in the US. So what are we really talking about here? And so for me, I part of all of it is in America, we have, as Black people, we have these silent, what do they call it? Microaggressions every day. You don't know. Are they looking at me? Are they this? What's this? What's going on? And you know, around the world, people just say, I don't like you, or maybe they don't hang out with you. But that's a reality. Everywhere you go, and I know Raven, you're younger, so you're like the 20-ish age. I think that's the Gen Z. And this newest age coming up, it's all about inclusion and acceptance. And I love that. I love the ability to want, but in the reality, in the end of the day, you're not going to be included everywhere. And everybody cannot be the same thing. And everybody cannot be the same. We can't all be doctors. We can't all be lawyers. We all can. There is a variety, but what we can do is be treated with respect as human beings and value. But this idea that we all are equal, I'm sorry, I don't agree with it, because we're not. Because I'm not equal to my sister. She does something different. She's different in her life. She does something. She brings a different. She sets the table. She brings the cup. I set the table. I bring the plates. My brother sets the table. He brings the napkins. We all collectively bring something to the table that may not look exactly like the person next to us. And I think that it's really hard in the Black community because we don't also see that there could be, like, people will tell me, I moved to Texas and people were like, I skateboard, I'm from LA, I'm proper. And people were like, all the Black girls were like, oh, you wear Vans, this is back in the day, you wear Vans and you skateboard? That's what white people do. Who says? I'm from LA. I do what I want. Why are you boxing me in and telling me what I can do? So I think it's not just the Jewish community. I think it's people have an idea of who people should be. In America, we play every year. I know when it's time, we're going to play Martin Luther King. We're going to play we're going to do that one picture with him and Herschel walking. Why are we still going back to Martin Luther King and Herschel walking? Because why? We're lazy in the Jewish community. We don't want to say, you know what? Instead of going back to showing me Martin Luther King, who was marching for freedom and equality as a Black person, and this Rabbi Herschel as a Jew, why can't we talk to Black Jews now? Why are we not setting a stage and putting Black Jews' voices on the table?
Heschel.
I mean to say Heschel. I keep saying Herschel, like Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker's in my thing. I say Herschel all the time. Heschel, I know it's Heschel. But you know what I'm, thank you for the correction, please. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, why are we not able to say, now we have Black Jews in our community? Why are we still going back to that same default? Because in the reality, we want Black people to be Christians. We want us to be allies. And we're just like, no, we are in the group and we are in the tribe just like you. Not unfortunately, but fortunately. And so I don't know, like, these are the things that I think about here, and I look at from abroad and from a distance, and it's really quite sad, because I feel like we miss so many opportunities. We spend most of our time on the internet talking about, arguing about what it is, instead of just really making like valid connections. And where we can, like, I would hope one day that I'm sitting with Raven and having a coffee, and Shoshi and Janae, we will sit and have a coffee, something tangible, and not just this world where we're just fighting online, and this doesn't really reflect the reality. Because at the end of the day, the reality doesn't reflect for your truth. This idea of your truth, okay, it's your truth, but it doesn't mean it's the reality for the rest of the people. So, okay, I'm saying this about me today. Okay, this is where I live, but I still have to blend into a greater society. So I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I just feel like the Black community also doesn't want to accept Black people as Jews, unless they're like, oh, we Hebrews, we the real Jews. And then that's a hot mess. Because what is a real Jew,
I actually, I actually would embrace that as a point to go on. If somebody has a deep kinship with the Hebrew people and Hebrew culture, and that's their jumping off point for a life of mitzvot and clinging to Hashem, then I'm like, go for it. Go for it, but what annoys the hell out of me is when people want to use that story of lineage, which I don't know what the evidence really is for that, but people want to use that story of lineage and just end it right there. and don't want to do anything meaningful with it except beat their chest and say, well, we're better than those other people. That's ridiculous to me. But as far as the you know, and I've said this before in Instagram comments, but as far as the Jewish community representing its Black members, what they'll do sometimes, what the larger Jewish community in America will do sometimes is trot out the Black community members when it's time to finger wag to the other Blacks about anti-Semitism, and then put us away when it's time to go. When it's time to go to the next thing.
I've seen that too, and I've heard some people say like,
Yeah.
like I have to come out.
Yeah, bring on. We'll find out Blacks when it's time to get them to finger wag to the other Blacks about anti-Semitism,
right.
which and then also this whole ghost of like that there's a special Black anti-Semitism, as if there's a special Black brand of anti-Semitism. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that to me is really creepy. No, it's the same Arab, white supremacist anti-Semitism that some Blacks have cherry-picked from both. No, it's the same anti-Semitism. There's no special Black brand of anti-Semitism.
Well, I was going to mention my synagogue has been really good though about they made it their mission to create more, like for example, like we have an anti-racism task force that started, and then we gathered a lot of information from different parts of temple functions, and from there we made goals about like what we wanted to see. And so we actually have, I don't know how many, but like we added some, I'm a board member now, and we have like a few board members who are young and of different colors. So I just think, I mean, I feel like it should always be our goal to move forward and to like get people in places of power so that they can help make decisions that will be fair to all. I don't know if I said that very well, but I just want to mention I was appreciative of that, because I'm like, we talked about everything going on at Temple, and now we're making strides to make things better at Temple. So I really appreciated the fact that they're working on it, And again, like Hai was saying, I think that it is a sense, like with just any group, it's always like a sense of like us and them, or like we're better than you because you do this thing. And so it's just, unfortunately, I think, because I've experienced it in different ways too. Like Kai was saying, like some of the music that I like or some of the things that I do, well, you're not like us, or on the, in other circumstances, like I've had people say, well, you're not as observant as me, so you're not like us, and you're not good at being a Jew. And it's like, I don't think that you can tell somebody that. So it's just people trying to find their own place in the world. And I think some insecurity there too.
Do you got Raven? By the way, Raven, please, if you need to, because we are a hot mess, just jump in there, Raven, and snatch our edges. Because girl, just jump in there, because we have we've been through some messy moments. So please, but I want to say too that I this is like 3% of the conversation, 4%. The rest of the time is amazing. This is just, we're talking about something very specific, because I saw somebody, it wasn't on, whose page was it the other day? Someone says, Black Jews always complain. I said, no, actually, there's nothing, like our community is absolutely amazing. I come from an amazing Jewish community, but I also hear stories, and I've heard people, and there are stories, but it doesn't mean it's all bad. If there's 100 times, there's going to be like 4 times if somebody says something silly. So I just want to say we're highlighting those moments, and I'm not saying everything is bad or whatever. Absolutely not, it isn't. But we have to highlight, we have to keep it real. So Raven, you just jump in there, because girl, we a mess.
No, you're good. I guess so are we still just kind of like sharing like some of our personal experiences, things that we've gone through in the Jewish community? Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess I can offer a little bit of insight on what I experience as someone who's Black and Jewish in an online space, because I think that's, I don't know, there aren't a ton of us. There are definitely some of us, but there aren't a ton of us who are speaking frequently and openly about our lived experiences online. I mean, it's very interesting. I think overwhelmingly, like I've had a lot of support from the Jewish community and a lot of love, which has been very personally healing for me as someone who is recently coming into their Jewishness. I mean, I've been ethnically Jewish my whole life, right? Like that's not something anyone can ever take away from me. But in terms of being culturally Jewish and intentionally like dedicating myself to community and exploring that part of myself, that's just been over the last 6 years. And so I know I definitely experienced a lot of, I don't know if imposter syndrome is quite the right terminology, but definitely, not feeling like I was Jewish enough, which what does that even mean? I mean, even that phraseology is frustrating. What does it mean to be Black enough, to be Jewish enough? Like who gets to decide who's the gatekeeper of identity, right? But and then that goes into a whole like colonial logics of like purity and like identity purity, racial purity, ethnic purity, which is problematic in its own way. But no, I mean, I to your point, Haya, like definitely a lot of positivity and affirmation from the Jewish community, and we're definitely highlighting some of our struggles. It doesn't mean that's the entirety of our experiences, but it's interesting. I've also had a lot of people in the Jewish community invalidate me for being a patrilineal Jew, so I'm not really seen as a real Jew, or penalizing me for not growing up Jewish, even though that's something I literally had I was a minor, right? Like no control over that. I don't get to decide how I am raised or anything. And for the record too, like I don't think it was negative or malicious thing on my mom's part. That just wasn't her experience. She was not a Jewish woman. She's not a Jewish woman. So I think she struggled to figure out how to help me connect to that growing up. And I don't fault her in any way, shape, or form for that. She was just doing the best that she could. And I love and adore her deeply. And she's deeply supportive of my journey now. So I want to be clear, that's not me, like that's not a slight to her. I love Mama Curtis. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. There's been a lot of affirmation, but a lot of folks who don't think I'm a real Jew because I'm a patrilineal Jew. I didn't grow up, Jewish. I didn't grow up going to Hebrew school, doing all these different things that are cultural markers of belonging. I haven't yet had a B'nai Mitzvah experience, even though that's definitely something that I want for myself. And started that process at the beginning of the pandemic. Well, before the pandemic started, and then the pandemic started, and then it got cut off. So, what are you gonna do? I'm trying to pick it back up now that I'm done with school. But I think this is all
Yeah.
a long journey.
That's good. You want to know something, Raven? I think that's awesome. Kol hakavod to you for picking it back up. It's gonna be amazing. You know, I grew up Jewish. Yeah, growing up Jewish doesn't save you from the nonsense.
Yeah.
Just, it's now that I have more years of the nonsense. I have the child version of the nonsense and the teen version of the nonsense. Okay.
That's real.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say. I was gonna say this, and I actually also want to say, Raven, because you had a post, and I think I left a message about, look, I'm gonna say this, and I'm saying this as, the Jewish community, like, we got to do it like this. In Judaism, we have it's a blanket, right? It's like, look at it like it's a, when you say I'm Jewish, it is a blanket with a bunch of patches, okay? And each patch, the blanket is the Jew, and in each patch is what your Jewish experience is. No one can ever take away a Jewish experience. That is what we're in an era where people are consistently telling people who they are and who they are not. To understand Judaism, like, you have to understand what Judaism means. And so I think that people come in there saying, you're not Jewish and you're not this. You're not Jewish, actually. You're not Jewish. Because first of all, Judaism is a law. Okay. So when you say patrilineal, when you say this, that's
Mhm.
That's absolutely right. But someone will come and drag that, like they will come to you and they will drag someone with a reform view, or they will say, oh, your mom did this. Someone said the other day, is someone, like, there's actually laws for this. Is someone Jewish if they dafka, don't keep kosher? Can they do this? Can they do that? And these are actual laws that are on that we discuss, but you can't take away someone's Jewishness. And so, however, what someone can talk about is, you want to talk about halakha. You want to talk about what that means. And so those are the things that I like to talk about, because I understand that, yeah, you can do a reform gear, but when you go to the rabbinut in Israel, they're not going to take it. Okay, that's it. You can't, those things you cannot take away. That's just real facts. That's an actual fact. Okay, that's why many people come to Israel and they do, or they go and they do another deal, right? Because they say, I want it to be this, this, and this, and this, and this. And so we're in a thing where people try to invalidate you. You are Jewish, and you're on a journey, baby.
But
You on an amazing journey. And that's what I'm saying. So, like, to
I'm
me,
trying
it
to
bothers me when
invalidate the
someone
white
comes and tells a
person.
person how they can identify. You can't
Yeah,
tell me how to identify. You, you can't.
yeah,
Period.
but you know that they're not,
They
that
can't
they're
tell you how to
that
identify.
at
Is what I'm
the
saying.
time they're not looking to try to invalidate the Jewish identity of the white person
No,
um at the synagogue that has the Jewish grandpa. Okay, like you know that. There, a matter of fact, at Chabad they were looking for shidduchim for a young lady that me and Chaya and Janae all know, who a Jewish father with a reform conversion. They're looking for shidduchim for her.
yeah,
So what do you need? No,
no, I
like,
know.
are you looking for reasons
I know.
to be a community
But
with
I
somebody? Or are you looking for reasons
But I'm just
to
saying,
um to
I'm just
exclude
saying, like,
them?
no, but I'm just saying, like, we have
Sure.
to look
If
at,
if a
we have
man
to
is
look at,
asking for an aliyah at if a man is asking for an aliyah at or offered an aliyah, and then they're asking his his pedigree according to halacha, that's one thing. But like if you want to sit next to me,
exactly. That's and
that's
that's
another
that's
thing.
but that's what
Okay.
bothers me. That's what bothers me. Listen, in just to let you know, there is a group, right? So basically, what I don't really go like here. Basically,
Oh,
what
hi,
some evangel.
one moment. So we are coming to the end. So
Oh,
after you finish
shoot.
this thought, then we're going to
Oh,
move to just like any sort of upcoming
okay. Then let
projects
me
or
just
Jewish
get off on the subject.
organizations that we've been a part of that we want to recommend to others, and then we'll finish up because it's 12:55. So I just
Oh, okay. She said. So let me just cut myself off. Um, what do we have to do?
oh, so do you have any upcoming project? Were you finished with the other thought? Sorry.
No, it's irrelevant.
Okay.
Okay. So
Any Jewish organizations that you've enjoyed, and if you have any upcoming projects, if you want to share anything about that.
Oh, there's so many Jewish organizations. Well, first of all, I definitely want to put out that I support 100% the We Were Never Lost project with my boy Rudy Rochman, out there, just getting out there, doing the Lord's work, trying to do
My
kibbutz,
husband's in a documentary.
trying to do kibbutz galilot. I just saw a little piece of his movie. And he's just doing his thing. He's just he's not discovering, he's just going out there and putting his foot forward into kibbutz galilot. So I definitely say if anybody wants to support that. And I like the Jewish Federation, because I really do think, especially I'm working on this group. They've done like Jews of color groups. They've bought a couple groups. This is the second group they bought to Israel. So many nice, wonderful women. I'm sure you guys are going to hear about it. Black Jews, professional Jews that really are just trying to work in inclusion and just continually having their voice out there. So those are the two organizations that I think get out there. And of course, Dee's organization is amazing because she just really puts out the colors and the energy for Jews of color. Behola Shon is always amazing. I took my kid when he was little.
And
D,
the
you can
Chupa
go
Foundation Uganda.
and you got and go ahead and Shoshana, do you think that I have known nothing about
Uganda.
the Shoshana, can you? And so D,
So what we're doing is, long story short, what we're doing is we are investing with local women in chicken houses, and the women and the profits from the chicken houses go to scholarships for disabled kids to attend the Overcomer School for Special Needs, and also the Mbale School for the Deaf. So yeah, this is what we're doing. So women are empowering women and disabled kids, and they help each other.
Amazing.
I guess really briefly. Do you want to jump in, please?
Go ahead, Raven. I'll go after. Go ahead.
Okay, real quick, with literally 15 seconds. Two organizations I really love in Chicago have been JCUA, so Jewish Council on Urban Affairs. They have a subsidiary that is for Jews of color. It's called COLO or JOCC. That's great. And then also BASE, which is like a national organization in the States.
What was the last one? BASE?
Yeah, I actually discovered them in undergrad. They're really cool.
What do they do?
So basically, like they have bases all around the country where they have a rabbi and their partner run the base, and they run Jewish events outside of their home. It's really beautiful.
I know, right, Haya? Yeah. You have to drop a link to us. I'm very interested in that.
I love that.
Haya. Yeah. Thanks, Haya, for the shout out. Haya is also on the advisory board for Mosaic, and she has been my day one, just soul sister, partner, friend, sister. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Yeah, she's definitely, we've had some really striking conversations, but I'm coming up on my first in-person art festival that I started last year, Spirit of Humanity. It will be in Washington, D.C. in the fall. So I'm super excited. Kaya, I'm trying to fundraise and hopefully it can fly you out because I'm trying to get some subsidies for travel. I hope you all can come up. Yeah, so I'm really excited to we had 21 artists last year from all over, predominantly in the US, but from all over, beautiful just Jewish artists of color and representation. And so we will be inviting them to, since we had to do it virtual for COVID, we'll be doing it in person. You can follow on our website. We're on Instagram at mosaic.visions. We're on Facebook. So yeah, I mean that, and then I support Rudy Rokeman, of course. He's also on the advisory board for Mosaic with We Were Never Lost, and just amazing. It's just amazing to see everyone's individual growth as well. So Haya's doing her thing, huh? Go ahead.
Were you, because I know last year was a really issue with Jew of color. Can you, and people were asking you, I'm a Jew of color, can I jump in? So will you be more clear of what a Jew of color is this time? Because
I think, so I actually had Jew of Color on the Spirit of Humanity Festival. I took it off, and I'll tell you why. Because in a global sense, JOC term is really just married to the US. So when other Jews of color from, and I'm saying this because this is a term that's being used, I don't oftentimes, I try to stay away from that actually now, because we're on the diaspora and we're global. And so if you identify as a Jew of color, great. But it is for Black and Brown, Indigenous, Jews, and whatever you identify with. It is for diversity. It is be Black and Ashkenazi too. So this is not to disclude anyone, but I took the Jews of color out of it, but I rephrased it and said, if you're on the diaspora and you're Jewish, show up. Brown and Black, Indigenous, Asian, Latinx. So I leave it up to the person to self-identify. And we had, someone that submitted that, kind of people were like, well, they look white. Well, you know what? They're indigenous, and I'm not going to go into that.
Dee, we have to connect. I need to know just quickly your how you do your thing, since I'm very, very new to the nonprofit world.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of hard to understand. It's like 3 jobs. I still learn every day. I'm in my 3rd year. So I just did like 6 months of strategic impact planning to take the organization to the next level. I'm going to be doing some like massive fundraising. Funding is, it's hard out in these streets sometimes. I mean, so I'm learning a lot of equity issues, even in philanthropy. So there's a lot of things that I don't think people understand that I go up against as a leader in philanthropy, or not a leader in philanthropy, a leader of, I guess, a JOC leader or Jewish woman of color leader, or someone that's a founder, CEO of a nonprofit. All the challenges that I go through in terms of systemic racism, white supremacy that is endemic in our society. And, oftentimes I'm like, should I share this with the world? Because you would not believe some of the learning curves that I'm still going through at this time.
Well, I'm so thankful for you guys being on here, and definitely want to follow your journeys and see what you're into in the future, because you're doing great things. I want to give a shout out to the URJ. I was part of their JOC fellowship. The fellowship's different every time, but definitely was a wonderful experience.
Yes. Is that Juvenation?
Yes, Juvenation. Yes, it was amazing. And so, let's just keep making connections and keep growing. I'm so thankful for you guys being here.
Thank you guys so much. It's so wonderful to see all of you. Nice to meet you, Raven. Raven, we didn't get so messy today because we had a company, but next time, Raven, we're gonna get real messy.
Oh my goodness.